Hello there, friend, and thank you for joining me. Welcome to another episode of Hopeful Homeschooling Podcast, where we find help, hope, and a little humor in every homeschool day. My name is Kelly Warner from Hope in the Chaos, and you and I today are going to be chatting about choosing homeschool curriculum without overwhelm. This is the sixth video, seventh, might be the seventh actually, in our series on how to start homeschooling. And we are going back to the basics. We are going nice and slow. We have talked about the 5 simple steps to get started homeschooling. We've talked about the 3 things that you need to start homeschooling today. We have talked about learning styles. What is homeschooling? And right now, today, like I said, we're going to be talking about curriculum. And this is a big one, right? I am going to try to keep this video on the shorter side. We are not going to delve into the nuances of specific curricula today. But what we are going to be doing is we're going to be talking about curriculum. And of course, I'm going to be using my notes, right? Curriculum, my friend, this is where many parents get stuck. And as a self-professing curriculum junkie, I get it. However, let me free you from something right now. There is no perfect curriculum. Okay. What works for one homeschool may not work for yours. And you know what? None of it is going to work 100%. There are going to be aspects of whatever program you choose that you love, and there will be things that you don't like. Okay. You need a starting point though. You need a bit of a guide. And perhaps you just need to know where to go, right? Now remember though, curriculum, it's a tool. Okay. And you are in charge as the homeschooler. You don't have to do everything in the program that you purchase. You don't have to take every test or cover every lesson. If you are not a hands-on arts and crafty kind of mom and you don't want to make whatever arts and craft project, you don't have to, right? You are the captain of this ship, as they say. And curricula is just part of it, right? You can change it, you can pause it, you can adjust it to make it fit your needs. Now, before we go too much further, I am going to hop over to this other section of notes because we're going to talk about the different types of curricula real quick. Okay. I go into this more um, inside one of the blog posts on my website talking about choosing curricula, and I will link that in the show notes. And you are multitasking, which I know a lot of us do, pay attention for the next couple of minutes when we go over these things. So we're going to do a quick rundown of some of the common terms that you're going to find when you're out there looking for a particular curriculum. Okay. First, you have online classes. These are your lecture style classes. They're live or pre-recorded. Costs of these, they vary greatly. Sometimes you might find an entire program that's online, or perhaps you're going to choose a one-off online class for something specific, right? Math is one that many families love to have online through videos. Okay. There's also computer-based curricula, or even sometimes you can find digital curriculum using DVDs or CDs, although those are coming fewer and far between, right? These are programs that you purchase, and they allow your child to complete lessons, lectures, review activities, and even tests. They may or may not come with printouts or handouts or even physical notebooks. Digital resources also can include your online classes. Now, if your program says that it is student paced, okay, this is either a digital or a textbook program, and these materials are set up to allow the student to work at the pace that suits them best. That's all that means. Okay, so you kind of hand the workbook, the notebook, the password, right? Online login information, and your child just goes. A teacher-led program. This is something that has a parent or co-op leader in charge of the course. You are setting the pace, you are directing the learning, you're probably explaining the lesson, and then assigning whatever task the child needs to do on their own. Unit studies are super common within the homeschool realm, and they're exactly what they sound like. You are studying a unit of information, and it's based on a particular topic or subject. Okay, unit studies allow you to teach your child through one core thing, perhaps apples. We'll go with apples. That's a really common unit study in the fall. And you're going to learn history, math, science, language arts, geography, and even do arts, crafts, music, all of that right around apple, right? You're going to create a whole unit on apples. Or perhaps you're going to create one in the spring about gardens or frogs, maybe in the winter around snow or hibernation. Unit studies are a lot of times a mix of student-led and teacher-led. They also include interest-based learning, which is really just your child's interested in something, and so you follow their passion and creativity in that. Unschooling. I know this is not a particular curriculum, but I do want to touch on it real quickly. It is a most controversial method of teaching and learning within homeschooling. Controversial doesn't make it bad or wrong. Unschooling simply looks to extend the curiosity of children. You follow your child's lead. And if they want to learn, you do it. And if they don't, you don't. It is a very freeing method of learning that really puts the child in the driver's seat. Charlotte Mason learning, it's a type of learning based on the writings and instruction of Charlotte Mason. She's very much a literature-based homeschooler. You might see some of your curricula touted as relaxed homeschooling. This means it's a low-key approach to homeschooling where the student directs the pace. There might be, there's not going to be a lot of like classical learning or anything that's super strong. However, relaxed homeschooling doesn't mean lazy, okay? It means we're effective and we just prefer to have a more simple pace. Literature-based learning uses a wide variety of literature, and your learning stems from the books that you were reading from, whether those are classic novels or graphic novels. It can be picture books. It doesn't matter. You can use any type of book. Spiral-based learning, of course, is a method where concepts are repeated like a spiral throughout the learning, whereas something that is considered a mastery-based, it's a program that wants your child to master the concept or topic before you move on. Mastery-based learning, in my opinion, is especially beneficial in math, right? Where everything kind of builds on one another. Whereas spiral learning might be more beneficial in perhaps history and language arts. There are pros and cons to all of these different types of homeschooling. Okay. This is not a complete list. This is just some of the more common options that are available to you. Me, I tend to fall into literature-based learning, relaxed homeschooling, Charlotte Mason. We do unit studies, we do teacher-led, we do student-based, we do computer-based, and online. I tend to fall into all of them. And you're going to find as a homeschooler that you're not going to stick with just one. You're going to float and fluctuate throughout the years of your homeschool journey. Now, if that was a lot to take in, which I know it was a lot to say. Please know I have a complete blog post that I'm going to link below in the show notes, wherever you happen to be watching or listening to this, that you can get a copy. Now, where do you go from here, right? You have all of this information. How does this help you? Well, friend, you're going to combine the overview of the different types of curriculum with your child's preferred learning method, which if you haven't seen that, that was our last video. I'll link to that in the show notes. I'll also link to the blog post that covers that. And you're going to combine that, and that's going to help you start to go, okay, if I know that perhaps you have a kinesthetic learner, obviously that's a hands-on learner. So they're not going to do well with a video-based lesson that just has them listening and then taking an online test. So you're going to rule out a program that is online, right? It's just not going to do it. Or maybe you're going to look for something that offers both a video-based lesson, but also maybe has an online class or club. Or you're going to say, okay, we're going to do the video lesson, but then you're going to show me that you've learned by doing something hands-on, right? These are just tips and tricks and ways for you to learn. Choosing your homeschool curriculum, it can be challenging. It can be frustrating and overwhelming. There are so many options out there. And like I said, I'm not going to be telling you which programs to choose here today in this video because that's not the point. The point today is we are going over some of the more common some of the more common options. We are going to talk about how to choose a curriculum. Now, wherever possible, I do recommend try to get a free sample. Maybe it's a download, maybe it's a free trial, maybe you can sign up for, some do like a 14-day free trial, some do, a few lessons, some will allow you to download the materials. Either way, get inside the programs that you're looking at buying. And perhaps you can find, maybe you have a local homeschooler and you can say, hey, can I come over? Can I look at your materials? Or if you know someone that uses a program that you're interested in, say, hey, tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you don't like about it. Okay. Another great way to find what may or may not work, of course, is through curriculum reviews, which I do happen to have quite a few of them. I love reviewing homeschool curricula. One, because I love trying new things. Two, because I love helping you find the best programs for your homeschool, right? Because I'm all about helping you make homeschooling simple. So I will link to my curriculum reviews. Again, those are going to be in the show notes. Now, of course, look for curriculum reviews that are truly honest, not just those that are trying to sell you a product, right? Make sure the review includes tips on how to use the materials or honest insight into who this product is best for. Lastly, do independent research, right? It's difficult, but it's worth your time. And when I say independent research, I don't mean just hopping in a group saying, what does my fourth grader need to know? No, because each fourth grader is different. And the longer you homeschool, the more you're going to understand that. Now, it can be time consuming to do some of this independent research, and I get that. I do. And again, if you are just starting your homeschool journey, right, brand new, perhaps you haven't started yet, you're still diving in and working on it. But right now, you don't need to worry about picking the perfect curricula. I talked about that 2 or 3 videos ago. Okay, you need to be looking at the 5 simple steps to get started homeschooling, which I've got a video on that and I've got a free download. So those will be linked below. You need to be thinking about how you can start homeschooling today, which you don't need a curricula to get started. And in fact, if you're pulling out mid-year, you definitely don't want a curricula when you get started because you want to put some time into deschooling. We have a whole blog post on that. Again, all going to be linked in the show notes, right? Anything that I talk about that I don't get to dive in or that I have more information on the website will be linked for you. Now, of course, you're going to want to go to the company's website, right? And the company is going to be sharing the highlights and the best part of the information. They're also going to have an opportunity for you to take what's called a placement test for your child. These are so important that you do because with homeschooling, you're going to learn very quickly that sometimes you can jump into the material. Let's say you have a 5th grader. Sometimes they can jump right into level 5 of the material. Sometimes they might need to back up a step or two and maybe start at level 3 or level 4. That doesn't mean your 5th grader is on 4th grade learning. And it does not mean that your 5th grader is behind. Okay. Some programs actually encourage you to start at the beginning, regardless of when you start. I can think of a particular math program that says even if you're starting in middle or high school, start at the beginning so that there aren't gaps because each program is going to teach a little differently. So online samples, so you can really see what's going on, recommendations from fellow homeschoolers and friends, reading reviews, and then of course looking at placement tests are going to help you. And the curriculum company, they want to make sure that the program fits well. So reach out to them if you're unsure. Another great place to research about curriculum when you are ready is going to be homeschool conventions, right? And those tend to happen in the spring and the summer. And this video is being recorded for January release, of course. So we're just ahead of the convention season. But this is a great time to reach out and to speak with curriculum companies, content creators, um, the homeschool moms that are there because they have a particular program, and they're there Yes, they want to sell the curriculum, but because they want to make a difference in every homeschooler's life. Homeschool conventions give you a great opportunity to touch the full program, to see it, and to speak with either a representative from the company or sometimes the creator of the program. Now, a little caveat about conventions, they can be overwhelming. So it's best to arrive with a plan or a notebook. Um, Best to browse and look at everything. Do not get overwhelmed by the conventions. I know some of them, some of the bigger ones especially, really do need a multi-day approach. Um, Take your time though. Browse the vendors. You never know what you're going to find. Now, the biggest factor in choosing your homeschool curriculum, obviously, is your child, right? You want the best program for them. But sometimes and often, as homeschool families, we have to consider our budget. Okay. This isn't in the notes. I'm totally going off script, by the way. Um, it is okay if your budget is 1 star, right? You don't have to have a lot of money to homeschool. In fact, if you go back a couple of videos, I share that you can homeschool with just your library card, a sense of adventure, and a cup of your favorite beverage, coffee, tea, water, whatever. And even though that's meant to be lighthearted and fun, it's also 100% true. Now, if you think back to the early years of homeschooling in the United States, there weren't conventions. They didn't have online resources. There wasn't a list of co-ops and other homeschool support. Many of them were homeschooling literally by the seat of their pants. Some of them often were homeschooling illegally. And I don't recommend breaking the law. But remember, the whole modern day homeschool movement is here because of those that paved the way for us. And they did so without resources, without a budget, and without the massive amount of curricula companies that we have behind us today. So if your budget is tight, it's okay. That doesn't mean that you can't homeschool. Okay. It might mean you have to be a little bit more creative. Perhaps you need to create more unit studies based on the season or books at the library. Perhaps you need to spend a little bit more time online Googling free homeschool resources. I know I have an entire subscriber library available, and most homeschool advocates and bloggers have the same thing, right? These are here to support you. We're here to give you resources that help make it easier. I know that you, between free resources online, public libraries, local curriculum swaps, it is so possible for you to start homeschooling. And I will share that our might have been a second. Anyway, one of our early homeschooling years, I bought a science book at a yard sale just down the road from me. I spent $4. It's one of the best science books I ever bought. And we stayed with that company for years, right? From a $4 purchase, right? Now, if you're willing to put in the effort, be a little scrappy to find free or nearly free resources, then your biggest expense is going to be pencils, paper, right? And probably coffee. Okay. Now, you can go the other side. You can purchase a fully boxed curriculum or invest in a year-long online program, right? Now, some of those can be as expensive as a semester at a college, right? Some of them can still be very budget friendly and super affordable. Okay. Just remember, expensive doesn't mean quality, and cheap doesn't mean that it's horrible, right? Your willingness to try, that's it. Now, as for our family, we're totally in the middle, right? I still love free and discounted resources. I absolutely adore getting a good deal on anything. And I love making my own stuff, right? So now each summer we do set a budget and we try to stick with it. Um, but that is a super personal one. Now, getting back on track, because we are talking about choosing curriculum without overwhelm. Um, there we go. Gotta get my notes back up here. Remember, your curriculum, it's a tool. You can change it, you can pause it, you can adjust it. And there's no hard and fast rule that says you have to have an expensive program or you have to use what someone else is using. Some families do thrive with what is called an open and go program. And just like the name sounds, you open it and you go, right? That could be a student-led or an independent-led program. Others thrive with literature-based learning. So you're just going down to the library and you're checking out as many books as you're allowed to, right? Some have to mix and match. And in some seasons, you may find that you are investing heavily in a specific program or extracurricular, right? If you have a child that's perhaps, oh, I don't know, arts, music, sports, some of those can be very expensive. And perhaps it's where you're investing. And then you're, going, I don't need a big math book. I can teach elementary math, right? Because most of us can, right? Most of what we use on a daily basis is just elementary math anyway. But remember, there's no gone, just completely gone. I told you, I just record these and then I share them with you. No one asks, I guess, is where I was thinking, right? When your child, right? Because sometimes we get bogged down, right? As homeschoolers, and we think we have to do this, we have to do that. No one's going to ask what you use for third grade math. Your college entrance interview is not going to say, did you use one of those really expensive programs for fifth grade history? No. Your child's future employer is not going to ask them in their interview, was your language arts free? It's not going to happen. Okay. Your curriculum choice is based on the needs of your family, the learning style of your child, and of course, your budget. And of course, when you're starting out in homeschooling, I really do want to encourage you to start small and to start simple. And I'd love for you to start flexible because you can change. You can go with a better program later if you find the need. Oftentimes, what I see and what I have seen over the years is families get bogged down with buying the big names in curricula. And then they're like, we can't afford to homeschool. I'm going to tell you right now, cost should not prohibit you from continuing to choose to homeschool or from starting to homeschool. Never once have I allowed the cost of a particular program to prevent us from doing this. Now, there have been times when I've said, we can't afford this program. There have been times when I've had to say, I would love to use it, but it's not in the budget. But I do that with life, right? We are a budgeting kind of family. And if it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget. And I understand that sometimes it's hard. There are some programs out there where it is well known that the cost is worth it. But there are also just as many homeschoolers that share stories, especially first generation homeschoolers, that remind us that they were homeschooled by parents that had no resources. Some of them didn't even have a high school education themselves. And yet they're now second and third generation homeschoolers out here supporting the rest of us. So, friend, I would love to talk more about this. I love curriculum. Told you that. There are times that I take on a curriculum review because it's a high item that I love and I want to put my hands on it and I want to share it with you. And I know that's the only way that my family is personally going to be able to use it, right? Now I would love to be able to continue this conversation, but I have a feeling I've been chatting far longer than I intended. When I sit down to make these videos, I'm always like, we're going to stay 10 to 15 minutes. And I know in my last video, I started out by saying it would be that long, and I think we hit 25. Because your girl has the gift of gab, because I have such a heart for homeschoolers. I want to see you succeed so much, right? I could spend all day long just chatting about homeschool styles, homeschool methods, curricula options, how to push through, when to come back and stop pushing. But I can't, right? However, the best substitute that I can offer you is called the Complete Beginner's Guide to Homeschooling. It is a 92-page ebook that I have written for you, and it includes printable workbook pages. It goes over many of the starting to homeschool things that I have talked about in this series in a deeper way. And in the program, I'm going to help you walk through choosing your curriculum with confidence, not with pressure. Because I don't want you to pick the same programs I use unless they're going to work for you, right? And that's one of the reasons why I told you I'm not naming curricula option in this, right? I didn't even name the programs and resources that I have because that's not what this is about. Today's video is about supporting you so that you can homeschool with confidence, not the overwhelm. So when you grab the Complete Beginner's Guide to Homeschooling as part of this series and use coupon code GUIDE, GUIDE, you're going to save $10, which means you're going to get the entire guide, all of my best tips and tricks, the deep inside knowledge, for the cost of what? Like a coffee and a sandwich, right? I mean, hey, you could download the guide and then maybe go down to your favorite place and get yourself a coffee and start reading. I think that'd be a great way to spend the afternoon. Anyway, friend, I am going to link the Complete Beginner's Guide to Homeschooling in the show notes. And I'll write down that coupon code for you so that you can grab that and you can continue on your how to start homeschooling journey. Friend, thank you so much for joining me today on the Hopeful Homeschooling Podcast. I do appreciate. And if you have found any value in this video or the other videos that I have shared, can I get you to just do me a quick favor and like or subscribe? And maybe even go one step further and you could share this video with another homeschooler. The more people that interact with these videos, the more I can get this message out and help other homeschoolers in their journey, which really is why I do what I do every single day. All right, friend, thank you so much for your support. I hope this was helpful. If you have additional questions, drop them in the comments wherever you happen to be taking this information in, and I will do my best to find you the proper answer. Again, this is Kelly with Hope in the Chaos. Thank you for joining me. Have a great afternoon.